Welcome everyone. I hope you're all well and welcome to the Full Fabric Live Product Tour. It's great to be here today. So just a quick introduction about myself and the quick agenda of what we'll go through today. For those that don't know me, I think I have some new faces here. So delighted to be here and welcome you all. My name is Tanya Roquette. I'm a vice president here at Full Fabric. I started my career in higher education over 15 years ago, first as marketing admissions director for an MBA program. And since 2012, when I joined Full Fabric, I have the pleasure of being part of many digital transformation projects and implement Full Fabric across several of our clients and many universities that work with us. So really looking forward to show you our product today and share some of those learnings and best practice. Here's today's agenda. So I wanted to kick things off by explaining what Full Fabric is, for those that don't know, what we built and why we built it. So I'll do a brief introduction about Full Fabric, also what we're seeing in the industry, and then jump straight into the live demo. Please feel free to ask questions. I'll address them at the end. So use the Q&A button here at the bottom. Ask your questions, and at the end, we'll go through all of those to make sure that we'll address any questions that you might have. So let's go into the solution overview as well. So solution overview, just a quick overview about Full Fabric products. So here's a high-level overview of the Full Fabric solution. In a nutshell, Full Fabric is a very powerful suite of products that allow universities to manage the entire student journey. We have 3 modules, and some universities use the 3 together, and so that's an end-to-end product from initial inquiry to alumni and beyond if we talk about lifelong learning, but also can be modular. So some universities use just Origin, for example, and then we integrate with the existing CRM or the existing SIS. So very briefly, the student CRM is as the name says, a CRM that allows universities to manage relationships with their students across the entire journey, lead, applicant, student, and alumni, and also corporate contacts when that is applicable. Origin is our admissions and enrollment platform, and that's where I'll be focusing today's demo. So Origin takes everyone from started application to enrollment, giving a modern and engaging applicant experience to students, to applicants, but also providing a much more automative and personalized experience for staff. And last but not least, Core. Core is our student information system that helps institutions become more agile by dealing with all the student administrative process like grades, assessments, transcripts, and student communication. So it's a much more automatic and transparent way of working with students and providing a better student experience overall. And here are some of our partners. We work with higher education only. So Full Fabric has been designed from the ground up to universities like yours and institutions like yours. We work in more than 17 countries, mainly in Europe, and a range of different programs as well. I know we have here universities that offer bachelor's, master's, executive education, online providers that only offer short courses, and PhD programs. Full Fabric is highly flexible and can cater to all these different programs as well. So I'll try and give you an overview of how that will work. And why do we exist? Why does Full Fabric make sense in the current ecosystem and infrastructure? I always like to spend a few seconds talking about the current education landscape and what we see as current challenges and trends. And I've highlighted, there's way more, as we all know, but I would like to highlight 4 because those are the ones that we focus more as well here at Full Fabric and what we hear by why customers choose Full Fabric. The first one overall, competition. The size of this sector has increased significantly. Just to give you hard numbers, in 1990, there were roughly 1,000 higher education institutions worldwide. And nowadays, there's more than 30,000. And the numbers continue to grow, and we're probably not even counting all the different flexible range of providers, which is now the fastest growth market in the sector. So there's way different programs that students can choose, globalized as well. So you can study from your own hometown. You don't have to travel. So competition is fierce, and that makes obviously your work a lot harder in terms of student recruitment. Student expectations have also changed. Nowadays, we all know, not only students, but in our day-to-day life, we cannot conceive life without smartphones. instant access to information, on-demand services that students are used to, like Uber, Netflix, Amazon. And so they expect that same kind of experience when interacting with the university. And they're not very patient either. So if the information is not there and then, you probably lost that student. And overall, there has been a shift. Universities no longer compete by having the best academic degree. They compete by offering the best student experience. I was in a recent conference from Gartner, and they were actually comparing the music industry with the higher education industry, how music changed from buying a CD or a disc to nowadays having a completely personalized playlist with providers like Spotify, and higher education going into that direction where students will be able to build their own curriculum, and really universities going into the direction of providing a much more flexible experience. And that's going to be the competitive battlefield for universities. And all of this is driving the need for better digital infrastructure across higher education. So many universities are still working with legacy technology and outdated technology, manual process, Excel spreadsheets, which make your lives harder, but also the student experience not great. And as you'll see, that has a big impact in the student choice as well. So here's some data from Great States Higher Education Digital Experience report from 2022. They actually surveyed about 2,000 UK students. So it's a UK undergraduate and postgraduate pool of students that were surveyed. But as you can see, and I think this applies to all types of students and regions, 67% of the students that responded to this survey say they expect a consumer type of experience when they interact with university. So I think this highlights and shows what we were saying before. But more importantly, 50% said that was actually a key factor when deciding a university. So this shows that the student experience is not when they start their studies, which I sometimes argue with universities when they say, but the student experience is when the universities when the student starts their studies. Is actually not. Everything before that, when they visit your website, download the brochure, start and submit an application, visit an open day, these are experiences of great importance. And if you want to provide a modern student experience and convert more quality students, that is actually where you need to focus. And that is what will have an impact on higher conversion and higher students. So without further ado, let's go into the live demo. And so looking forward to show you the product. And I would like to start with the applicant experience. Let me just make sure that you're seeing the right screen. Okay, so when it comes to the application, and obviously we're not focusing on everything that happens before, which is highly important. So when we start working with any university, we also look at the website. What conversion actions do you have on the website to convert website visits into leads? But many universities also don't have an apply now button. They always ask people to leave their details and then send them information. That's a big mistake. Many students, and we see the universities that gone into the experience of providing a very clear call to action to start their application, and then provide that experience, they increase their lead to applicant conversion by significantly. So another thing that I think is important is it's not just an application form. It's actually a whole journey from started application to enrollment. And to give you an example, here I'm logged in as Jody. And in Full Fabric, what we do is we build a branded portal that it's going to take everyone from started application to enrollment and sometimes even beyond, but focusing on Origin all the way to enroll. So this is the portal where Jody will see all the relevant information from the point where she's still working with her application, which is the case here. I'm logged in as Jody. She started an application for the Certificate in Advanced Management starting in January 25 in the London campus. So at any point, she can access the application portal from her mobile, any time of the day, and she can consume any information that is relevant. Later on, if Jody, and I'll show you that later, gets an offer, this will be the same portal while she will do that. If she's invited for an interview, exactly the same. So it's the same experience throughout, the consistent, relevant, and kind of semi-personalized experience where she will find all the information that is relevant. So here as Jody, I can consume any content, but I can also click continue application, then go into the actual application form. And here again, it's very important to think, what are you asking the student at this point? And make sure you're only asking the relevant information that you need to give them an offer. Don't ask things that you only need for enrollment. You can have an enrollment form later on. If you need to have a pre-qualification application form as well, or a pre-qualification form, also do that, but don't overwhelm and do it too many fields. Also, another important thing is being able to have conditional fields. For example, here's an example. Have you completed the GMAT or GRE? If I say yes, it asks me to upload the GMAT score. If I say no, when do you plan to take it? So personalize the application form as the student goes. Again, fully configurable, so different programs will ask different questions, and obviously save and continue automatically. So as soon as I fill in any field, you'll see progress is saved. So they can fill in, come back and return, and you have all of that data on the back office. Just to wrap up still on the application experience, is also very relevant, and particularly for degree programs. So for shorter programs, it's more like an e-commerce experience, which I can also show you briefly. But here there's things like for personalized components for them to choose their subject. So if there's particularly requirements in terms of credits they need to fill in, we were working with a university that was doing that on the phone. As soon as they filled in an application, they would call and ask, okay, what kind of subjects, or every term they would need to choose their electives. So if there's journeys and choice, make that part of the application or registration form. So that will help you a lot. Reference as well. If you require reference, don't ask them to upload a reference, make that part of the journey. So I can come here, for example, and fill in a reference request. In this case, all my reference requests and professional academic references have been filled in. And so I'm good to go. But give that visibility. I don't see as an applicant what Julie and my colleague have written, but I can see that it has been filled and I can complete. So give that transparency as well to the applicant. And if you have a payment, also make that part of if you have an application fee or later on an enrollment fee as part of an enrollment form, make that part. Don't ask them to do a wire transfer. If that's the only option, that's okay. But nowadays with payment gateways such as Stripe or Flywire, we integrate with some of those two, for example. So you can make that part of the whole journey experience and make the application form a much nicer and easy experience for the students. Before I jump into the back office and then later and go into the journey of the student in more detail, just a quick note about those short programs, because we hear sometimes universities, oh, but we don't need an application form for short programs. It's more like an e-commerce where they choose, they buy, and they pay. That's absolutely fine. We would highly encourage that for those types of programs. So you can build a product catalog, they can register, automatically pay, and get in almost without any human intervention. So again, it will be highly configurable depending on your journey, but that's also a possibility that many universities are going for, particularly for those short micro-credentials, short programs where they don't need to apply and receive an offer. They will just enroll automatically after submitting their registration and paying their fees if that's applicable. Many universities also use this for PhD applications, for financial aid forms. So all of that is part of the experience. If there's any questions about that, feel free to add on the Q&A and I'll come back to this component. So now going back to your experience as university staff members, what happens when someone starts and submit application? How can we make your lives a lot easier? So first, let's start with the stages of the journey. So when we onboard any client, one of the first steps is to map all the journeys, all the steps of the student journey from started application in this case to enrollment. Obviously, if you're using Foundation, we'll look at Prospect as well. But in our region, it starts at the point when they create an account and start an application, or if you're using a proxy registration where they automatically start. So there's different ways of authentication as well. So all the steps later, depending on your selection process, will be mapped here. So when you log in for every program, you automatically see how many people do I have in each state? Where is the bottleneck later? So you can understand where are people dropping off, and you understand how many people you have. At any point, you can slice and dice the data. I only want to see the 17. You can choose the columns that you want in your list. You can export, import, although I always say one of our missions at Full Fabric is not to have any Excel, so there shouldn't be any reason to export unless for very specific reports, and even then we typically integrate with some of those components. For example, in the UK, with HACCP report, so we kind of help you build that report here. But that's a different topic. I'll leave that for another session. But anything that you need to do on your day-to-day should be done here. So you access your data, you have very clear visibility on where prospects are in the journey. And more importantly, that's one of the areas that people, okay, that's great, I see all my applicants, but what do I do next? So one of the things we try and do is help you build automations to make sure people are advancing across all those steps. So this is one of the areas that I want to highlight today. So you can build different automations in different areas of the journey. So let's start with someone like Jody that you've seen before. She started an application, but she hasn't submitted. So she's in the stage of started application. Many universities that we see have no visibility on those. They only see leads and then see submitted applications. That is a big mistake because there's no clear visibility on who started the first step but haven't finished. And so that's one of the big areas where we will provide that visibility. But more than that, how can we make sure that all those that start, submit? Those that interact with the started application, we're talking about 50–60% of conversion rates, when some of the universities that we sometimes see, we're talking about less than 10%. So you can clearly change the game by interacting with those that start an application. And there's different ways to do that. So here's an example. Here's a workflow that we created for this demo to connect with in-progress applicants that have some engagement. For example, here's the way what I've built in terms of slice and dice the data. So I've selected people that started an application. The last time they logged in was before a month ago, so they haven't logged in for a month. So there's definitely less engagement here. And here's the program that they selected. I'm going to actually remove the program. And the completion is more than 50%. So someone that already put some effort, they have completed more than 50% of the application. So they've already spent a bit of time filling in your form, but they haven't engaged for a month. So they're actually losing engagement. There's 28 people here. These are 28 leads that could fall through the crack if we don't engage with them. So what do we do? Here's an example of a workflow. So this will automatically, and as soon as people enter that workflow, so someone that started the application, haven't logged in for a month and has more than 50%, as soon as they enter this segment, they will automatically get this workflow. And let's say step 1, send an email. Can we help? And that can be a simple email offering help and offering a call with someone from your team to help them. After 3 days, if they don't respond, if they don't move, send an SMS, for example, to understand if they haven't submitted their application, checking if they need any help. Again, a different way of interacting. After 7 days, send a reminder to a staff member to give them a call. So as you can see, there's quite a few different steps that we can add. This is just an example. We can provide a lot more examples on how to do it, but you can see how this will help nurture the applicant and have different ways of interacting with them to make sure we're increasing that conversion. Any questions about workflows, feel free to add on the Q&A. Let's go now into a journey where the applicants submitted the application code. They have completed all the minimum criteria, all the required fields. If they don't complete that, they won't be able to submit and move into submitted. So, but now let's use an example of a degree program or a PhD. You need to select them. You need to understand, are they the right fit for you? So what happens there? One of the big components of Full Fabric is our evaluation and selection process. So when someone submits an application, and then obviously this differs dramatically from institution to institution. Sometimes the admissions team does evaluation 1, and then the program director does the actual course evaluation. Sometimes it's alumni doing. So depending on how you work, we'll create an evaluation form for you. Here's an example of an assessment Matrix, as it's quite different as well from institutions. Some are looking at specific criteria in the application form. And so I have here a matrix with weighted score. So on the right-hand side, I can review the entire application form, all the fields, all the documents, any videos that they uploaded. Nowadays, that's quite common to request videos, any essays, CV, photo, transcripts, all the documents. So the entire application form becomes one document for you to review. You can download if you need, but most admissions teams and also evaluators can have a specific role to come here, review the application, and make their assessment. And again, this can be an assessment, it could be an interview feedback form, it could be a criteria selection, a checkbox, making sure they fit all the criteria, and you can even have multiple people accessing this at different points of the journey. But here's an example. So I'm logged in now as an evaluator. So I come here, I review Azalee's application and evaluation, and then I score. I can add notes, I can have my admission result, and I can even have someone else doing the assessment too. Once all of this here, I can submit my evaluation. I can confirm this can redirect to someone else. As an evaluator, I can see who else do I need to evaluate. So if there's multiple evaluators, you can redirect different applicants to different evaluators. Sometimes based on specific criteria. For example, we have a client that redirects based on nationality or based on program. The program owner receives their own application, so that can differ. And so I have here a list of all my evaluations. So this makes, again, the evaluation process, which quite often is completely done offline with emails from admissions team to evaluators, with spreadsheets, with the scoring all done here. And once that person is ready to be offered, again, the same applies. No emails with letters being done manually, Word documents where you make a mistake on their name, and where you spend a lot of time. We have a university, a recent client where they were spending half of someone's a whole resource, half of their time was spending just doing offer letters and contracts for the admitted students. We can automate a lot of that. So for example, here's another automation where we're going to make a completely different automation for someone who's now admitted. So as soon as they're admitted, here's what the system will do. We'll create and make an offer, which you'll see that it's now shown on their applicant portal. We'll create a payment plan. You can have different payment plans, default with installments, and create a default payment plan for them to go through. We'll send them an email saying, congratulations, you've been admitted. So straight away, as soon as you move someone to admitted, these 3 steps are done automatically. And now obviously, nothing to stop there. You need to continue the relationship to make sure all those that receive an offer now will move into enrolled. And that's where many universities again stop. And now we've done all these offers. Let's see how many come. Clearly, quite often that's where the biggest ROI is coming from when we start working with the university, because you have all these people receiving an offer and a proportion of them not accepting, obviously for different reasons. It's very rare to have 100%, but close to 80%. If you do the right steps and if that person is really interested, absolutely, we can get there. So here's again another example. After 5 days after receiving the offer, you send an SMS, congratulations on your offer. After 14 days, if they haven't enrolled and paid the deposit, you, for example, do a notification to a staff member. This is, again, very simple examples. You can do this a lot. For an admitted student, it's typically quite often a 21-day or 30-day workflow where you're kind of giving them information every week, from customer testimonials to financial aid information, anything that you think it's relevant to them, and all the frequently asked questions that you receive at this point. This is great content for you to add here. So workflows really help those one-to-one emails, which will always happen, and that's okay, but will minimize a lot that manual follow-up and only leave you time to do those when you really need those high-level activities where you're going to change the whole strategy. That's where you should be spending time, and the system will be all of the other heavy lifting for you. So this is more workflows, and again, there could be a lot more workflows to show you, and we're happy to do a session just of workflows if you want. Feel free to connect with us. But we hope this already gives you an overview of how that works. Before I go into the experience, there's two more things I would like to show you here. One is the product conversion report. So Full Fabric is not a business intelligence tool. So many universities use a business intelligence tools, but there are definitely reports that we surface to make the day-to-day of marketing and missions teams a lot easier. And that's what you see here today. So here I can see after you start Full Fabric, you start seeing very interesting data that change not only your marketing budget. So a lot of times we understand which marketing activities are providing you the best ROI, but also where is the drop off? Where do we need to change the process? So again, in this example, you can clearly see the conversion from applicant admitted to student enrolled is not great. So what can we do to increase that? So we can provide you certain metrics as well, just high level, but from prospect call, this is the ME data. So from prospect call to started application, the average is about 20%. What we see from started application to submitted, about 50%. And from admitted to enrolled, the best clients we're looking at 80%. Other 60% is already a good conversion. So this again changes from program to program depending on the competition and the types of programs. But it gives you an idea, and what we recommend doing is obviously doing a benchmark on your type of program. It's very different for an MBA that costs 50,000 euros or a bachelor that is funded by the government. So obviously conversion levels will be dramatically different here, but it's possible to benchmark against your type of institution and your type of program. And we can help you do that. And so really interesting, but more important also giving you that visibility. So a lot of times when we ask these questions to universities, that relies on them making huge Excel reporting, which is obviously not ideal, and it should surface automatically in real time. What can you do to impact that? And then other reports, for example, nationality, gender breakdown, all those kind of metrics as well. So last but not least, so going back to the student experience, it'll be great to understand and to show you what can that experience look like. So the portal that we saw before doesn't stop when they submit an application. As I said, it's not just an application form. If you just have an application form and sometimes where they can't even save, I guarantee you're losing a lot of the people that land on that page. So by having a portal that takes them all the way until offer and even enrollment, you're giving that personalized experience that we talked about. So here's again an example, same URL, same look and feel. And I don't think I said that in the beginning, but Full Fabric is white label. So the URL, the logo, the photos, this is all configurable according to your brand. And it's usually a subdomain like, for example, apply.tbs, if we're talking about the business school, which doesn't exist. TBS, it's a dummy data that we use. It could be apply or campus or online or portal. So you can just create a subdomain of your website, and then people will land here at the different stages of their journey. So talking about the admitted portal. So I'm now logged in as Jeremy. So Jeremy received an offer. So he got the email saying, congratulations, you've been admitted to TBS. Here's a video message. So again, you can really work on the portal to provide information that is applicable to them at that point in time. And the goal here is not to replace the website. The website will always be there with information about the university and about the programs. This is information to people that have received an offer. Sometimes it links to the website, and that makes a lot of sense, but it's real information that they will need. Don't let them look for it on the website. They might not have that patient, and then you lose that again. So here is information that you think based on your experience with applicants that got an offer. What do they ask? What do they really care about? So maybe you need a handbook, information about accommodation if we're talking about on-campus and international students, sometimes about visas. We have many universities that have this type of experience for international students where they give a lot of support for visa and accommodation. and all those different processes that they have to do after receiving the offer. Financial aid, if that's part of the application, that's fine. But if you only offer financial aid after offer, that could be where they will submit their financial aid form or their scholarship request form. Testimonials, meet a team, basically anything that you think will help convert and make sure, convince that person you're the right institution for them. But also anything that you require them to do. So nowadays, obviously at this point, they need to accept or decline. But then after that, you might have a contract. We integrate, for example, with an online signature provider, so that straight away, if they sign a contract, they sign it here. We integrate with DocuSign and they sign it here, and that automatically submits that document. But if you have an enrollment form where they have to pay the enrollment fee or provide specific information that you now need to create a student profile. So for example, again, talking about HESED, the Higher Education Statistic Agency, they request a lot of information about enrolled students that doesn't make sense to ask on the application. Only those that enroll need to provide that information. So that's when the enrollment form makes sense. So here again, if I'm Jeremy, if I want to accept, I can then go through, I accept, I fill in the enrollment form, I can see upcoming events specific for admitted students. If you have those, it's a great way of engaging admitted students. But if I decline, this is also extremely important. You can also request specific information about them. So if you decline the offer, for example, send them a survey. Why did you decline? Did you go to a competitor? If so, which one? If you decide to defer, why? And have that process embedded here. So really make that whole process part of the journey. The worst thing that I've seen is obviously if you send a survey 2 months after they decline, they're not going to provide, or the number of people that submit is minimal. So make that part of the journey here. If they decline straight away, ask them why have they declined. And the same with the enrollment form, with payments, all of that. So that should be part of the admitted form. Again, just examples, everything is configurable and customizable, but hopefully this will give you an idea of what's possible here. And hopefully it wasn't too fast. I know sometimes I talk a little bit fast and I get enthusiastic about all the different features. I also didn't want to overwhelm you with too many features. That's what we have prepared for today. But looking forward to see if there are any questions that you have. So let me look into the Q&A. If there's any questions, feel free to send them our way. If not, we have something at the end for you to suggest as a next step. But I will wait just 1-2 minutes for any questions from your side. So use the Q&A button, and at the moment there's no open questions there, but I can see if there's questions. So just use the Q&A button, and then I'll address any questions that you sent. Okay, I'll take a look at the end if there's any more questions coming later. So we might end a little bit early, which is great, but let me talk about the next step. If you think this was interesting and a good step for you, what we highly recommend is scheduling a free strategy call with us. So the strategy call is basically a way to diagnose your current processes, and you tell us what the scope is. And we understand what is working, what's not working, what is the current tech stack, how many tools do you have involved in the process. Quite often we see universities with a CRM and then an admissions tool and then an emailing tool and then letter provider. So all these different tools that are currently kind of almost working on their own. So we understand what is the current stack, what are the integrations required, what can be replaced by something better. So benchmark your conversion levels, again, the industry as well. We don't have all of the data, but we have some data already meaningful that we can try and help you understand your conversion levels. Where can you have the biggest wins in your journey? And ultimately develop a plan that will show you get to your goals, whether it's grow enrollments, get more quality students, decrease the number of unqualified applicants. That's quite often a goal for many institutions. They're receiving too many applicants that are not the right fit and spending a lot of time dealing with those. So let's look into that. And ultimately get to a plan that will ensure you you get your enrollment goals and your strategic goals. At the end, if we're a good fit, let's discuss further and see if we can work together. If not, the plan is yours. And it's also helpful. We hear that from many universities that this process is super helpful. And so it's yours to keep. And at any point, you can use it internally. Here's the link. I'll also add the link here on the, we'll also send an email with the link and can add here on the chat for you. It's fullfabric.com/book strategy call. We would love to hear from you and do a strategy call of your institution and your programs. And really hope this was useful as well. I'm really passionate about the Full Fabric product, and I hope that shows and that was useful for you. Okay, we now have a Q&A. Okay, is there any specific functionality for ExecEd programs? Absolutely. So for ExecEd programs, quite often there's specific functionality to make that process a lot faster. So for example, bundling different programs. So someone who joins two different programs, then get a certificate, choosing subjects as well. If you have an exec program that is available for a student to choose subjects, that is part. Creating the product catalog. So going back to the beginning, let me see here. So creating a product catalog where I can search the different programs. So a lot of clients use this specific for exec, where they can search, okay, I want programs starting in the next 6 months. I want programs online or in the following campus if you have multiple campus, the theme. So applying the different filters to choose the programs that are applicable. And even later on, if someone has completed an ExecEd program, provide them with recommendations. That's the next step as well. Also specific for ExecEd programs, if you have a lot of B2B clients, so companies, for example, sponsoring or sending multiple multiple students to you, that's also one of the functionalities. Companies can what we call HR registrations. Companies can create an account and then submit applications for multiple students of their company. So rather than the student applying individually, it's a company sending multiple students. So we do have a lot of functionality that is specific for ExecEd. That was not the focus of today, but very happy to show you that as well at a separate call or any strategic call. Okay, how quickly can we implement with Full Fabric? So Full Fabric the origin product specifically takes about 4 to 6 weeks. It really depends on integrations, if there's any development required. When the question actually said the long implementation times put my stakeholders off. Absolutely. That's one of the goals here at Full Fabric is fast time to value. So the implementation team, the implementation process is key for us. So that process mapping that we talked about, we do something before, but then the future process mapping is done by the customer success team. They will handhold you throughout that process and making sure you're live within 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the scope of the project, how many people need to be trained, evaluating all your forms, your offers, your letters. But yeah, it's very fast. Full Fabric is a SaaS product, so it's built and we just configure that to you. So it's not something that we have to develop from scratch as other platforms that are not specific for higher ed. So that is one of the big advantages, that in 4 to 6 weeks, you can get up and running and be using Full Fabric. Okay, one more. Is there a support team available? Absolutely. So the customer success team is responsible for implementation and then becomes part of the experience. So as a customer. So we have different plans, different ways, but always there's a customer support portal where you have help guides, videos, tutorials on how to help use the system. You have a customer success team that is always available through the chat to answer any questions that you might have. And in the premium packages, in the premium plans, you also have a dedicated customer success team, always the same person that do quarterly review meetings and obviously have a much more close partnership. Quite often we hear it's an extension of your team and help you use the system. One thing that is important though, is you don't necessarily need Full Fabric to do a lot of the things that quite often we hear, for example, particularly if you're using an in-house tool. For example, if you need to make changes to the application form, you can do that yourself. Quite often we recommend having a kind of premium user or a super user within your team, and that person is responsible for making those changes. Again, you can come to us if you need it, particularly if you're on a premium package, but you have full autonomy to add portal pages, to change application forms, change the deadline, add new fields, create a new application form, add programs. These are things that you will be trained to do on your own. And so that also helps because you don't need to come to us, or again, in the cases of universities that use, we hear that's a big bottleneck, that they can't do any changes on their own. That's definitely not the case here. So you will be highly empowered to do a lot of the things yourselves. Any other questions? Okay, if not, let me add here this link, so fullfabric.com strategy call. I'll add here into the Q&A. We really look forward, not the Q&A, sorry, the chat, so that you can all see on the chat. Let me know if you can see it. I'll send it to everyone. I'll also open here so you can see what that looks like. Schedule a free strategy call. There's a form here for you to fill in. So just first name, last name, organization name. At any point, also feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, myself, Julian, Carla. Some of us are here to help you understand what can you do better in your process and how we can help. And that's it on our side. We hope it was helpful and useful. It's always a pleasure to do this session. So any feedback, feel free to send us. We'll also send a follow-up email with any feedback, and really hope that some of you, if not all of you, book the strategy call and that we speak again soon. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.